Hello, hello, welcome. Come meet me on your mat for a yoga class to open up tight hip flexors and quadriceps. So when you're ready and landed on your mat, we'll start in a cross-legged seated position just to take a brief moment to ground ourselves into our bodies. So legs can be crossed, hands on thighs. And if it's comfortable to close down the eyes, you can do so, or just finding a heavy and steady gaze point to the floor out in front of you. But you take a moment to relax here, to feel your weight beneath your seat, and your breath flowing effortlessly in your body. Maybe a bit more length in your inhales, and a bit more slowing down of your exhales. And before we start any yoga practice or any physical movement practice, it's so important to just take a brief moment to check in, to notice the physical body, anything that may be speaking to you, but also your energetic body so that you can really move mindfully in a way that honors how you want to show up today. So we'll just take a really long breath in through your nose and a sigh out the mouth to clear anything away. And then with this mindful awareness, you can blink the eyes open and we'll come forward to a tabletop position on all fours, hands and knees. So we want some time just to warm up the spine briefly with a few cat-cows. So take your first inhale to drop your belly to the floor, open your chin up to the sky. And exhale, round your spine as you tuck your tailbone, you look at your knees. And then just flow with your breath like so. Arch your back on the inhale. Round your spine on your exhale. And you'll find about 3 more at your own pace, finding a nice articulation of your spine and your breath connected to your movement. We just want to make sure that we have enough time here to land in our body so that the spine is lubricated. We feel warm enough to find our stretches. We're not moving into our practice super cold. Breath to body, body to mind. Take one more inhale, one more exhale. And you can always do cat-cows pretty much at any point at the start of any practice. You're going to come back to a long neutral spine and tuck both of your toes under and lift your knees from the mat for a downward facing dog. You might want to pedal through the back of your legs, bending one knee and then the other, just to stretch the back line, relax the head between your arms, and keep your breath really full. As you come back to stillness in your downward dog, you can raise your right leg up to the sky with an inhale. Find some energy through the lifted heel. Take a breath in. And then it's a fire hydrant pose that will roll your right hip open as you stack your right hip on top of your left. You bend your right knee and the heel falls in towards your bum. And then there's this lengthening of your right thigh, your thigh bone, and your knee away from your hip. And then as you look forward to the top of your mat, slowly step your right foot between your hands and lunge forward. Your back knee will lower down to the mat, and then as you lift up through your chest, just place your hands on your front thigh. Now you want to glide the hips forward, finding this really nice stretch in the front of your left hip flexor, and then the hands on the thigh are just helping you for balance and then helping to keep the chest propped upright. I like my back toes tucked under. I find it just builds a little bit more opening in my quadricep, but you can always have the back toes pointed. And then take notice of where your left bum is, and can you find a bit of a squeezing of your left bum muscle and a lengthening of your tailbone, your lower spine down. You're going to stay grounded through the heel of your front foot, and we'll take a quad stretch. So right hand stays on your front thigh, left arm reaches behind you, and as you bend your left knee, you can catch a hold of your left foot and squeeze your heel in towards the bum.
Now, as you hold in this shape, almost slide your hips back in space slightly so you can find that tuck of your tailbone. You won't be lunging as deep into your right knee. Your left bum is active and you're stretching the left quadricep. Keep holding your right thigh for balance, or if you feel like you have the space, reach back with your right hand, and then you can catch a hold of your left foot with both hands, and then maybe that opens the chest a little bit more. And if you can't catch a hold of your left foot behind you, just reach back with your left hand and work on the hamstring strength of pulling your left heel in towards your bum. Just take one more breath in right here. Slowly release your left foot. Bring both hands back to your front thigh and glide the hips forward. Reach your left hand up towards the sky. Look down past your right shoulder and then slide your right hand to your right hip or your tailbone. Your left hand continues to reach up as you lean back. And then you could even slide your right hand down the length of your back leg, and that might just add a bit more of a twist for you. Take your breath in, reach your left hand higher, and take your breath out, sink your left hip forward. One more cycle in, and then windmill both hands down to the mat. Frame your front foot. Tuck your back toes under, lift your back knee, and step back to high plank position. Full breath in right here. Your elbows bend halfway to lower down in a chaturanga. And then an upward facing dog picks up your chest for a back bend. Legs are strong in this shape. And then downward facing dog, lift your hips up and back. Full breath out. Inhale your left leg up to the sky, three-legged dog. And then fire hydrant pose, roll your left hip open. Stack your hips, let your left heel fall into your bum, and then lengthen your thigh bone as you push evenly down into both hands so the shoulders remain square. Breathe in, and then slowly step your left foot between your hands as you breathe out. Your back knee will lower to the mat, and then a slow rise up with your chest places both hands on your front thigh. You can glide the hips forward. Back toes are tucked or untucked, whatever feels good. But the right glute, the right bum muscle stays active here as you let your hands push into the front thigh and your chest is propped upright. Keep some slight tuck of your tailbone as you lengthen the lower spine. And then add your quad stretch by bending your right knee, heel to bum. Reach back with your right hand and catch a hold of the foot there behind you. And then to make the shape more accommodating, more accessible, just slide your hips back in space slightly. Tuck your tailbone underneath you. Keep your front hand on your thigh for balance. And then maybe you can always reach back with your left hand if you do have the space for it. And again, if you don't have the foot in the hand, no problem. Work on that hamstring strength of drawing heel to bum and then tucking your tailbone underneath you and then just working on that hip flexor opening. Really nice. Slowly let go of your back foot. Both hands on front thigh. Glide the hips forward. And then your right hand will reach up to the sky. Your gaze will look down past your left shoulder. Turn your gaze down to the mat. You can stay here. You can place left hand on your hip or your tailbone. You can also slide your left hand down your back leg, and that might just add a bit more length, a bit more opening into the right side body, the right hip flexor. Keep reaching your right hand up and gliding the right hip forward and down. Full breath in. Your exhale windmills both hands down to the mat. Back toes tuck, your back knee lift, step back, high plank position. Elbows bend, chaturanga, lower halfway. Upward facing dog, squeeze the bum, activate the legs. And downward facing dog pushes the floor away from you. Lift your hips up and back. Breathe in. Take a long breath out. Look to the top of your mat this time and start to walk your feet up towards your hands, as many steps as you need to take, landing in a forward fold. On your inhale, let's rise to stand. Reach your arms up and over your head. And then exhale, place hands down through to heart center. Steady your gaze just to a fixed point out in front of you. Take your right hand to your hip, and as you bend your left knee, you're gonna catch a hold of your left foot behind you, taking that quad stretch. And so as you do, squeeze your left heel in towards your bum. Notice if you're arching your back, and see if you can tuck your tailbone underneath you, hug the inner thighs together, and then lengthen your spine upward. It should feel like you're still drawing your core in. Your front ribs aren't flaring open. You're not giving into the low back. It's all contained, like suction cupping everything at your midline. Ooh, and balance. So this might be enough for you to stay right here, finding hips moving forward, crown of the head lifting up. If you want to add on for a dancer's pose, your right hand would reach up to the sky. You would catch a hold of the arch of your left foot, so your palm is opening out to the left side. And then as you kick your left foot into your left hand, you will just start to tilt forward, reaching your right hand forward, and then kicking your left toes up towards the sky. Still hug the inner thighs towards midline. Take a breath in right here. And then slowly release, neutral spine, step your left foot down. We'll switch sides, left hand on your hip, bend your right knee, heel to bum. Again, take that time, squeeze your heel in, but hug the inner thighs together. Tuck your tailbone beneath you, contain the front ribs, grow the crown of your head upward. If it feels good, stay. If you want to add on, left hand reaches up. You turn your palm, your right palm to face out, so you hold the arch of your right foot. You kick your right foot into your right hand and you lean forward, reach forward as you kick the right toes up towards the sky. Now you're still hugging your right knee to the midline, inner thighs are active, right bum is active, you're opening the right hip flexor. Full breath in. And then slowly let it go, neutral spine, step your right foot down to the mat. Inhale, arms overhead, reach up. And exhale, hinge from your hips and fold to your mat. Take halfway lift as you lengthen. Both hands to your mat, downward dog, hips to sky, step back. Breathe in. And then take a pigeon pose with your right knee coming forward to the top, shin to mat. You lengthen the left leg behind you. Now, in your pigeon, you're just gonna stay with your chest upright. I know this is also a hip opener, but it's also a hip flexor opener. So you're getting that stretch on the front of your left hip, but also the outer right hip. So we love a double whammy. So keep chest upright, lengthen the left leg long behind you, and just breathe here as you sink the hips low. If you want more support underneath your right hip, you can add something there, maybe a pillow or a block. And then if there is any sensation in the knee joint of your front leg, you can always tuck your right heel a little bit closer into your body. You're just gonna take one more breath in right here. And then you're gonna sit your weight onto your right hip for a deer pose. So bend your back left knee to 90, adjust your front right leg to 90 degrees as well. And then both hands will be behind you as you walk your hands back. You're stretching your left quadricep and left hip flexor here. So walk the hands back any amount. When you get that nice sensation, pause, take a moment to tuck your tailbone underneath you, and then squeeze your left bum underneath you. And then it might be enough just to stay on hands. If it feels good, you can always lower down onto elbows. But we don't want a pulling sensation on the front of our left kneecap, and we don't want our left knee lifting away from the floor. We want to keep that inner leg grounded. And if it is lifting, come back onto your hands and then work more into like pressing your left hip flexor open. And then steady, mindful breaths, just taking your time, breathing exactly where you are. And then slowly you can walk your hands back in to neutral, back out through your spine. Help your left leg come forward, and then downward facing dog however you want to get there. You can cross the ankles and roll over your shins. Your toes will tuck and hips move up and back. Breathe in your downward dog. And then pigeon, your left knee comes forward to your left wrist. Your right leg lengthens long down the back of your mat. And again, for this pigeon today, we're staying up onto our hands with our chest lifted, so we can get more into your right hip flexor, but also finding the hips dropping down so you can get into that left hip as well for that double whammy. Make the adjustments you need for support, maybe a block under your left hip or bringing your left heel closer into your body, and reducing the need to resist the shape or squeeze into the muscles that are not necessary, that are resisting. Find some softening. Good, and then slowly you will just sink your weight onto your left hip. And then as you bend your back right knee to 90 degrees, you'll adjust your front left leg also to 90 degrees for a deer pose preparation, but for a quad stretch. So as you walk your hands behind you, open your right hip, your right thigh, find that sweet spot for sensation. When you do, raise up the hips so you can tuck your tailbone underneath you and rest your bum back down onto the ground. I find it so helpful to keep my right bum squeezing so my hips are moving up, and then it's opening the place I want to target even more. And again, you can go to your own depth. Maybe you're staying on hands, maybe you're dropping onto elbows, but if you are finding more depth, your inner right leg is staying on the ground. You're not lifting your knee from the mat. You're not finding a pulling on the front of the knee joint. There's sensation in terms of stretch, not pain. And then your breath is slow and steady as you invite and welcome in that opening. And then gently we will release. So back onto hands, you can walk the hands back in and lift your chest up. Help bring your right leg forward, and then this time we're going to come down onto our back for our final shape. So your knees will be bent on your back, your heels will be tucked into your bum, and your arms will be long down by your sides. For a little bridge, take a moment to just, again, scoop your hips underneath you, a gentle flattening of your low back to the mat. Your toes are light on the floor. And then with a breath in, raise your hips up to the sky and squeeze your glutes underneath you, pressing hips open. You can keep your arms long down by your sides. You can also interlace the fingers underneath you and then walk the shoulder blades underneath you to find a bit more height. You want the knees above your ankles, so if you feel like your feet are slipping out from underneath you, tuck your heels in closer. Hold here for 5 as you raise up your hips for 4. Bum is active for 3. Inner thighs are engaged, squeezing into one another for 2. And then take another final inhale. Your exhale, slowly, vertebra at a time, you lower hips to ground. Take a constructive rest. Knock your knees in, heel toe your feet wide, and then place your hands on your body in some way. Let the eyes close down. And bring your breath back in. If you want to rest here for a little bit longer and take a shavasana, you are more than welcome to. If you're ready to transition and move on with the rest of your day, you can just roll over to a fetal position on one side and then press your way back up to a seated position just to close out the practice. So legs can be crossed. You can place hands one on top of the other at your heart and just take a brief moment just to feel your body, to feel your heart, and to take a longer cycle of breath in and out. Thank you so much for joining me to help open up tight hip flexors and quadriceps. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. There's more videos to come. I hope to see you very, very soon. Thank you and enjoy your day.